Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to get this meeting started May 4th, 6 p.m. First, this call to order, Pledge of Allegiance. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item, are there any changes to the agenda?
I do have a few. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to point out that there is a special agenda that has one consent calendar item on it. It has to do with a police canine. So if we can combine the two agendas, that would become item 5.12. And then in addition to that, I would like to pull 5.8 at the request of the council member who placed it on the agenda. And that item is establishing the process for the special city council meeting workshop on May 18th, 2023 at 5 p.m. regarding an anticipated city council district seat vacancy for District 1.
Which one? You said 5.8?
Yes, 5.8 on the amended agenda, which is the process for the special city council meeting workshop. That was your item that you had asked to remove.
Are there any other items?
I'll table 6.3 for now.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda minus item 5.8 and tabling item number 6.3.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock,
You might still be on. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Aye.
Mayor Horn.
And I vote aye. Okay, our next item, we'll move on to item number 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations. The first one is recognition of Sergeant Bolos for his years of service to the city.
Good evening, council, mayor, staff, and public. It's my honor this evening to give some recognition to Sergeant Manny Bolos for his dedication to the Coalinga Police Department, and I'm going to read this first. In recognition for your dedicated service to the Coalinga Police Department and the community of Coalinga, February 2006 to April of 2023. So, Sergeant Bolos, I really want to thank you for your dedication. I know the 1 year that I've been here, you assist me a lot in the cannabis and very successful in the last grant we got for the for our video cameras. So I want to say a lot, thank you.
Thank you.
And I do know that the mayor has some appreciation too that he wants to.
Yes, I also have an award as well.
He's going to have some.
Appreciate it. I really am.
And then afterwards, when I see a couple more.
Yeah, sure. Okay, make sure this thing's working. Okay, on behalf of myself,
Yes.
the council, and the entire city staff and the citizens of Coalinga, I got you an award for your years of service to the community. Those that have worked side by side with you, and I first met you actually back in 2008, and I learned a lot. But those that have worked with you, you've been a mentor to all of them, including anyone that you've ever talked to. You've been able to be a mentor to them. Whether you know it or not, you are. And this is just to tell you thank you for your years of service with the Coalinga, or with the Coalinga Police Department, the city of Coalinga.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Photo of three of you.
I will go two black. I'll go get that second one and watch.
Sort of like the wrestling over the shoulder. Okay, thank you.
I'll make this short and sweet. Gosh, I never thought this day would come. So it's been a long career. I've seen the city, you know, a lot of ups and downs. Gratefully, a lot of ups. And luckily, this last year, I got to end my career with the city on a high note with almost full staffing and some great people. One of the things I would encourage the council is keep doing what you're doing and support your department. They are the best. Just so you know, I've got friends throughout the valley and all over California that I have worked with, and these guys are dedicated. They really want to do the best for you, for the community, and for the public. And so, you guys will be up here in another 30 years too. But I just want to say thank you for all of your support. And I know Marissa's on there listening too. I want to say thank you personally to her for being a great leader, having an open door policy, always listening to the bitches, gripes, and always trying to do her best to resolve the problems. And you folks up there for really what you've done in the last couple of years supporting the police department. And I continue to do that. I can't stress that enough, especially with right now, the chief will tell you it's a buyer's market out there in law enforcement. And it's easy to hire somebody and replace a body, but the experience is what you lose. Somebody that can come in and actually take care of a problem, and so can continue to support the department. So, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, is it okay if I say something real quick?
Yes, it is.
Manny, I just want to thank you for your years of service and let you know that just because you're retiring doesn't mean that you're going to be a stranger, because we're always going to keep in contact with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marissa.
Okay, our next item is presentation from the CHUSD update, the school district, by Superintendent Lori Villanueva.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to come down and talk with you a little bit about the things we've been going on and working on safety. And so I've got a lot to cover tonight. I won't read you every little detail, but I'm also open to any questions that you might have. So I would like to start out by just talking about the concept of safety, both in a school and a community, is multifaceted. It's not just about, you know, how do you do this or how do you do that? We have to look at all the pieces incorporated within culture and climate, within each school, things being age appropriate, everything from the fun activities you do to mental health assessments. And we have staff that are trained for each of these different items, and we try to make sure that we are providing social emotional support for all of our students, as well as interventions when they need it. So that's part of the purple culture and climate piece up there. And then you've got the threat assessment and prevention. And we've been doing quite a bit of work recently to work with some of these pieces. For example, how do you detect when there's an issue? How do you know when somebody's thinking about doing something unsafe? How do you prepare for those things? How do you report? How do you respond when you get a report? And also looking at our safety management and preparedness. So if any of you live close to the schools, I'm certain that you're wondering, like, what are all these bells? Why is a fire alarm going off? That's because we also have, not just through Ed Code, but our own district policies that we practice drills, fire drills, earthquake drills, active shooter drills. And unfortunately, if you look at drills, sometimes drills scare people, right? But we'd rather people learn and get some what we call muscle memory for how to get out of a building and where to go in case of emergency, instead of being lost and confused when something happens. We also have, visitor management and some different pieces, and I'm going to share some of those with you that you might not know about. Because again, safety in schools, we don't want to be on the news, right? And every time, some schools on there, because something happened, my heart breaks. And I always take a look and try to learn those lessons, like what can we do to make our schools safer? So we have been engaging in, thank you very much to my board, we have been engaging in a $1 million camera project. To date, we have installed 305 cameras in our district, and we still have 2 phases remaining. But we get very high quality photos and video, and we have been able to use them a lot. And actually, a lot of your officers have even come by to say, hey, did you by chance get this car going by at 4 o'clock yesterday? And we've been able to help. So we're very glad to do that. Another thing that we are doing is a fencing project. And I know that, some people may have different thoughts about this, but right now you can walk into any of my schools pretty much. And in this day and age, we need to at least slow people down, right? Fences and cameras don't fix things. They inform us and they buy us a little time to respond appropriately. So you will start to see fences going up throughout the district. We have a plan for each of the district schools. And you will, again, over the summer, start to see these coming up. We've also been working with the Central California Intelligence Center. And I don't know if you've heard of them. They're tied to Homeland Security. And they actually have an office that supports schools directly. And we've attended a training with them, and they are conducting site visits with us. So they'll do 2 schools a month where they come out and they actually walk a site with us, and they're like, have you thought about moving that bush? Have you thought about putting a barrier here? Have you thought about making sure people can't jump on your roof by moving this? So we are engaging in these site visits. They're very happy to provide advice on some of the projects we're doing, like the cameras. And additionally, there are new threats in our world tied to cybersecurity and cyber safety. And a lot of, you've heard of ransomware, you've heard of a lot of attacks that people perform. We want our students, our staff, our data to be safe. So we have some particular things that we've done, but in case of attack.
I need to stop you for a second.
Yes.
If someone has their phone on, can you please turn the volume all the way down? Thank you.
All right, thank you. In the case of a cyber attack, they'll actually come and help anybody try to deal with that attack. So great people in this office, I greatly appreciate them, and we are really trying to expand our work with them. We are also, as a district, expanding our security department. When I first started here 7 years ago, we had 1 security employee at the high school. We are now up to 10 security employees, and we just hired a chief of security who we hope to have coming on board in a few days. And she's sitting right there. And we're very excited because when you have that many security people, you need someone to lead them, someone to get them in uniform, someone to train them, and someone to really make sure that we can keep our schools safe. And school security people are different than, let's say, police, because we have to do some training on social emotional support, right? And I know officers do that, but we're working with kids. So our training is very specific to trying to keep kids and staff safe. My chief of security is going to be responsible for liaising with our local safety departments, police department, fire department. And this is something that when we hear from our parents, they're just like, we want our schools to be safe, right? Put more people out there, make sure they're visible. So we want our security staff to be visible, be out there, and to be able to respond quickly when something happens. I don't know if you all know, but by California Education Code, any security people that we have, any security staff does have to complete 20 hours of training before we can put them out to work with our students. Our plan is to continue additional trainings for them beyond, first aid, CPR. But if they truly are the ones that are going to see something first, the way they respond to an emergency is going to be critical, because if they're out there, they're it, and they're the ones that are going to get us the information to hopefully buy us time until additional help comes. We also have a program called Navigate 360, and this is an emergency management suite that we use, and it's it keeps us online and together. So for example, all schools by law have to have a school safety plan. We keep all of our plans, if you can see these little binders right here. So each school's plan, I can click, I can see each school safety plan. We have regular drills. We can schedule the drills so that everybody knows when they're happening. And if this Navigate system, we all have it on our phones, all of the staff. And so if somebody sees something, like I walk by, I see a trash can on fire, I could pull out my phone, I can push fire, and the school alarm's gonna go off, and staff is gonna respond to that fire if there's active shooter. And when anybody does anything on their phone, it automatically rings to my phone, rings to the principal's phones. Everybody knows that something has happened. We even know when there's drills. Within this system, we have each and every one of our staff and students accounted for. So when we do drills and we're looking for reunification and we're ensuring that we have made every child out to the drill, and we're making sure we can find them, get them to a safe location, we can actually take roll, and I can automatically from my command post ensure that we have found all of our staff or our students. If you're injured or lost, that can be marked, and then we know where to start as soon as emergency personnel arrive to assist us. We also have, as part of this program, we have all of our schools mapped out. They're also 3D. So let's say we were in an unfortunate active shooter situation. The police or whoever responds to us will be able to access a 3D view of that room to see where the windows are, where the doors are, where all the other pieces are. We have this done for each of our sites. We can also, you can see on here, I've activated it to show me where are all the fire extinguishers in this building. Where is the AED in this building, which is right here by speech. So these are very useful to us, and it's really important that we know where to go when something happens. Something that we are looking at, I sent an email out to staff and I said, staff, what else can we do, right? We've got see something, say something. We've got emergency ways for you to let me know something's happening. We're putting some fences up, we're putting cameras up. And it was actually suggested that we look at a personal alarm system. So we had a demonstration from this place, Centegix, and that's actually like a ID-sized card you can wear on your lanyard. If you give it 3 clicks, it'll say, I need help. And on my phone, principal's phone, security's phone, it's gonna pop up with my name and a big red dot exactly where I am on site, and that will allow people to respond to me. So let's say there's, somebody faints in my classroom, right? Sometimes you don't wanna run and find your phone, right? You can do that. If you click it and you just keep clicking, that's gonna say we have an active shooter situation, and it's going to set off alarms and bells, and then we can go into our lockdowns. So it's very interesting. We're taking a look. We're waiting for some pricing on that. I don't know if there's any grants or anything we can get, but I think that might be a great addition for our staff. The next thing that we have is our visitor management system. We use Raptor. And whenever we have visitors on site, we ask them to present an ID to us. We run it through our system, which records who they are, and then it prints out this lovely badge that they can wear. It's got a date where they're going, and then when they come back into the office, they hand us back the badge, and then we can record them as leaving campus. Right now, if you look around our campuses, again, you could walk in pretty much anywhere. So we do want to make sure we know who our visitors are, where they are, what they're doing. Today we had a gentleman coming around doing some work to create a bid for us on a project, and my head of facilities took a picture of the gentleman with his badge on, sent it out on our administrator text and said, hey everybody, this gentleman's okay, he's coming around to look at sites to do a bid, let me know if you need anything. So it is important to us that we manage people that come on our sites, because we aren't the park. Right? A lot of times, because we have a lot of, grass and play areas, a lot of times we get people that think we can just come and have a picnic or hang around, and that actually creates additional safety issues for us. So this visitor system helps us a lot. Take a breath. Any questions so far? Nope? Okay.
I have a few, but I'll just start off with one.
Okay.
The cameras that you said you got, the 305, and you said it's for the district, is that including in Huron as well? And if so, do you have access to see those as well?
Yes, I do. So from my desk, my computer, any administrator in the district can see not only their school, but all schools. And I can see Huron or anything in a blink. Thank you. So it's a great question. We love it also because we paid for a license to keep everything in the cloud. So a lot of times, unless you're watching 305 cameras, which is almost impossible, a lot of times it's going back after the fact to see what happened. And so we're able to use that to search, like a certain kind of car, like Officer Aiden came in a few weeks ago, and he was looking for a certain car that had a certain kind of hubcaps. And we were able to pull up all the cars that had passed on that camera. We found it exactly what time it had passed, and we were able to provide a picture of that car. So that's just kind of a connection there, but we're able to use that when there's incidents on campus as well. And so it's up there for 30 days, and then if there's something that we do pull, we can go and archive it, and then we'll have it as long as we need it. Good question?
It actually answered about 3 more questions.
Oh, that's great. We love our system. We use Verkada.
Now,
and
the last thing I have on here then is, you said you could actually hit it from your phone. If you were right there in that, does it pinpoint when you hit that button? Does it pinpoint exactly where you are so everybody knows where to go?
No, that particular system only tells you what school hit the button.
Okay,
So that's why we're looking at potentially those badges so that it can tell us where they're going.
okay, and those will be GPS pinpoint?
It's not GPS, it's, they had another name for it. So it is, we
Something
give them a
similar.
map of the school, and then when it gets the signal, it tells you on the map you gave us, that's where that person is.
Okay.
So it's kind of an overlay system rather than just GPS.
Yeah, I think
But
that'll
yeah.
make it a lot easier on you guys to be able to get to certain points a lot quicker.
It absolutely will. It absolutely will.
And will that system that'll be attached to the police department, will it be attached to like the chief and the commander's phone
Yeah.
or dispatch or?
Yeah, so our Navigate Prepared, we've already given access to both the police and the fire department. So all they have to do is put it on their phone and use it.
Oh, okay.
And the new system, yes, if we get that. But we are always like happy to be connected as soon as, like the cameras, we're not done yet. When we're done, then we'll sit down and talk about how we're gonna share that. Right?
Thank you.
You're
No
welcome.
more questions. Go ahead.
All right,
Yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
So I know you guys do a really good job at vetting the people that come in through the normal ways, but almost none of these active shooters come in the normal ways.
Right.
They break in, they go through gates, they jump fences, and then you also have the idea of you have gang members that have decided that they're just going to rush the place.
Yep.
How do you stop that?
Yeah, so our first step is, that's why we're trying to put all these fences in, to at least have a single point of entry for each site. So part of the fencing project, as soon as the physical fences are up, is to have actually point of entries, one for each site, that is connected from a camera. And so you kind of come up to one of my fences, you ring a doorbell, we can see you from our desk, and we like, can we help you? And we're like, here, I'm here to pick up Nathan, right? And we push the button, we let you come in. And then the gate closes, and it's actually an automatic control of the gate. So that's one way that we're gonna try to affect that. Again, I can try to slow people down. I don't know how to completely stop them.
So do the camera systems, I know that they have some really good capabilities on, being able to track people. I listened to the board when you guys were talking about all the different features it has.
Yes.
Again, hardly any of these mass shootings or any of these things have happened through the front door or through the entry points that you're speaking of. As they are great ideas, it seems like people figure out how to get around those. So is there any idea or a plan to maybe have some of those cameras pointed at fences, and when you see someone that's maybe, trying to get through one of those fences, that it could notify the staff and like, hey, someone's trying to come through a fence, something like that? Just a suggestion,
Yeah.
as well as kind of a question.
I really like it, and if I had access to wireless, I could bring up the cameras and show some of that to you, and perhaps if you'd like me to come back, I can demonstrate the cameras some more. But we do have plenty that are not pointed at a school building. For example, our most popular camera right now is actually pointed at the corner of Sunset and Cambridge, right? There's a lot of traffic right there. And so we are trying to, keep our kids safe that are crossing and, coming into school. But you're right. And our cameras can be set to be alarmed if there's motion detected on it at certain times, or certain, like, nobody should be trying to come through the gate. So you can actually set alarms specifically for motion or for certain people, right? So if we know a certain person's a problem, we can actually tag that person, and then if they enter anywhere I have a camera, then the alarm will go off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a question to go along with that. On the gates that are in the back, especially during school, if they're locked, do you have a way for, like a doorbell or some way for them to buzz the office?
Not now. We're gonna try to funnel everybody through the office.
Okay.
And because we can't, I mean, the more points of entry, the more difficult it is. So we're gonna start with the front office and see how that works. And then, for example, if you go down between Kalinga Middle School and the back of the high school stadium, there's that little dirt road that everybody takes down there, right? That's actually our road, and that's straight into the back of both schools. We're looking at putting a gate there, but then how do the CMS teachers get in? So we're looking at a key card entry system. So for those that have the business in there, we hand them the key card, that should get them in. So I foresee people's lanyards having a couple different cards on them, like an emergency card and then an access key card. We're trying. So the next piece that I want to talk about is kind of the social emotional piece. When people get angry, sometimes they start fighting. When people get angry, sometimes they stay home and don't come to school. There's a lot of things that we worry about with our kids. So for example, we had a second grader yesterday in Huron that didn't show up at school. And when we called home, they're like, Mom said, well, I told her to go. But the child also had a medical condition. And we're just like, we got to go find this child. Like, we never saw, either on the cameras or in person, we couldn't see the child coming into school. So we mobilized along with HPD. We went out, we started looking for the kid. Luckily, we found her. She was okay. But she didn't want to come to school because somebody had picked on her the day before. Right? And so we don't want a kid wandering around somewhere in either of our cities because they don't have some reason that they want to show up at school. And so throughout the age groups, people have emotions. There's a lot of different reasons why kids may come to school, may not come to school. And so the best thing that we can do is try to create places where kids want to come. And that's this climate and culture piece. We want to get to kids before they're so angry that they fight. We want to get to kids before they're so angry that they lash out. So we have some built-in scanning systems where if there's certain keywords that are tagged, then we will get a notification. And we will then get that notification that comes straight to my desk, my assistant soup, the principal. We will immediately pull that child in, and we will talk to them about certain keywords that they might have been searching or might have communicated to another person with using our system. So we do spend a lot of time following up on those things, trying to head off major problems. But, overall, it's, sometimes those big things happen, right? Kids get in a fight, and we didn't know that something was going to happen. Then we jump into a different kind of response. But we truly, as educators, we want to get to that before it happens. So we have been making an active effort to put in wellness centers. We're starting with our secondary schools. At the high school, it's going into the music building, at least for now. One side of it wasn't being used. And in this wellness center, kids are going to be able to walk in and get some help. Just talk to someone. Hey, do you have someone I could talk to? Sure, no problem. Let me get you somebody. And it's kind of in the center of campus because the point is we want to make it easy for you to walk in. We don't want you to have to make an appointment. We don't want you to have to wonder what they're going to say. It's going to be an open place where you can just come in. You need a Band-Aid, we're going to give you a Band-Aid, right? You need a piece of candy, we're going to give you a piece of candy, we're going to get you back to class. But we want to make it easy for kids to come in and let us know when there's a problem because we want to try to step in and head it off. We are working on curriculum. So we have a couple different curriculums that we use. And ultimately, we're trying to teach kids how to interact with each other. And I don't know if you noticed this, but during COVID, people kind of lost their minds. I think they kind of forgot how to be in the same room with other living people. And as we brought kids back to school, some of them, their whole early experience in school was on computers. Some people kind of lost some of those social norms. And so we've been doing a lot of work with our students on how do you greet somebody? What's a refusal skill? How do you get help when you need help? And so we make active efforts to let students know how to handle these things that as adults, we're expected to know. But sometimes you just have to teach people the kinds of behaviors that you want. We have counselors at every site. We're one of the few districts that actually has elementary counselors. And so we want to make sure that we're there to provide 4 different levels of support for our students. Tier 1 is what we call every kid gets it. So counselors get together, they have specific training from a group we call Hatching Results, and they will make lessons that go out to the students every week. And these lessons are about the things that we all need to know to get along with each other. We practice those things. And every child gets that, right? Not if you're a troublemaker, not if we think something, but every child gets some basics. Then we step up, and there might be some kids that need a little extra support. Maybe things are rough for them. Tier 2 is where we do small group work, and we're trying to get kids together in groups, work on those skills, work on the things that might keep them from being successful in school. Tier 3 is where we're like, I don't know, I got to get Lori in there alone and have some good conversation with her and kind of figure out what's going on and get a plan in place for her. And that's done by our school counselors. What we find is sometimes we have kids that have deeper issues that a school counselor isn't necessarily thoroughly prepared to handle. And so we have created our own Tier 4 support system, which is 2 of our counselors also have their license, their marriage and family license certification. And so when we kind of run out of ideas on things we can do, we can elevate them to the system. I have 2 that take care of all of the Tier 4 cases district-wide, and we try to, through that system, provide a higher level of more therapeutic support, and then also we can make referrals out for longer term. And we have a lot of different partners we use, like All for Youth. We've got just some different people in town, Olive Branch, a couple different pieces that we try to refer to, but we try to handle a lot of the issues in-house because honestly, there's not a lot of places to go for additional help. And if I had one wish for Kalinga and Huron, it would be that we had more people that provide psychological services in our town so that we have places to refer families to that are closer than Lemoore, Hanford, or Fresno. So then this whole picture of climate and culture, we need our adults to be models. We need our adults to help kids be the people that we want them to be. And that's a really big task because sometimes we have a set of rules at school and they're not the set of rules kids have at home, right? And so sometimes that's hard because they might be expected to act one way at school and not expected to act certain ways when they're at home. And so we try to spend some time teaching parents about the school environment, what the school rules are, and sometimes as simple as, please don't let your child bring their knife to school, right? Please don't bring your knife to school. But we live on a ranch and we use our knife every day to work on the ranch. That's great. Leave it on the kitchen counter. That's it. Don't bring it because even possessing your knife can put you up for expulsion in schools. So sometimes, again, it's just a part of educating parents around what we do in schools and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Question on that one?
Anything from council? I think we're okay.
Okay, good. So I just wanted to kind of wrap up with the idea that sometimes we can't handle it all of ourselves. Sometimes we need to call the police department. Sometimes we need to call the fire department. The number one thing that we probably struggle with is students that are having suicidal thoughts. And so we use the Columbia Suicide Severity Scale to assess the student. And once we get down to the scale where that student's in one of those red areas, that's where we call for support. And so I'm sure all of you are familiar with the 5150 term. Have you all heard that? So 5150 is actually defined as when somebody's in danger to themselves or others, steps need to be taken to help protect that person or others. And so we can take a point, we can do a threat assessment, but we cannot actually make a determination of a 5150. That requires either a peace officer or some other professional that's been designated by the county. And we don't have anybody in our district designated by the county. So there are times that we probably call the most because unfortunately we've got a lot of kids right now that are hitting the reds on this scale. If they are in, like the yellow or the orange, we try to handle things internally. But a lot of times kids need more and they're in crisis. And so sometimes we find that kids are younger and younger as they're in crisis. And so we want kids to know that if something's wrong, we're going to help them. If it's helping to bring in this person and try and not have a fight, or if it's to keep you from going home and doing something stupid tonight, we try to provide that whole range of service. And you've heard me say before, it takes all of us to raise a child, right? It takes all of us. And so we always appreciate, like I've said before, partnerships that we have with you. And just know that even though we are the schools, we still need the rest of everybody there to help us and support. And I think that was one of your questions, right, is how can we support the other needs that our kids might have?
Yeah, the only reason that was kind of a question, I've been doing some research on the statistics nationwide, and right now it's 1 in 5 children. 1 in 5 children. That's way too many. So.
Yeah, the latest 5150 that we had was for a second grader. It was for a second grader. And if you know anything about this Columbia scale, I can send it to you. If you don't have it, you have to have a plan and you have to have some intent to carry it out and a way to carry it out. And when you've got a second grader that has those things, it's extremely concerning. And so, we try to teach our kids to let us know these things. See something, say something. If your friend's feeling bad, go tell a grown-up, and then we try to respond. And we spend a major chunk of our day trying to respond to these needs. And, we're here to teach kids to read, write, and all that other stuff, but they can't do that if they're not safe and they're not stable for learning. So I think over time, education has really changed to where, yes, we're doing all that, and yes, we're doing severity rating scales on children daily. And yes, we are trying to provide as many services as we can. And some parents will take their child all the way to Fresno to help them because they will help their child. And some people don't have the means to do that. So we're trying to bring as much as we can to our own district to help. And that's been one of our pieces, like bringing drug counseling. We finally got Prodigy to come on board with us. But if I could have another wish, I would wish that we had a drug counseling center in our town because it is a problem.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned some of these services. Does the county offer services for mental health?
Yes, they do. So they have a couple different levels of program. First level is the All for Youth, and this is a grant that the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools office has with County Behavioral Health. That's All for Youth. They send out youth providers that we can elevate after our Tier 4 program to them, but they are also limited on how many kids they can have. They fill up really quick. Additionally, I can get kids into other county programs, but we have to go through a process called ERMS to get them into these county programs. And when we do get a child into the ERMS, and it stands, I forget exactly what ERMS stands for, but we have to have a provider here do a psychological assessment, evaluation, and they have to jump a lot of hoops to fill out paperwork. And if the county accepts them, they can start receiving services, but the family has to get them to the services. So other than the All for Youth, we do not have the county coming to town to provide these additional services.
Well, the reason I ask is because it seems like that, Coalinga, we pay our fair share of county taxes, but it seems like we're the redheaded stepchild when it comes to services. We don't get those type of things, and information like this can be used to help us leverage some of those services. So I'm definitely interested in working, having the city work with the schools and trying to leverage getting the county out here to do more, because I think we're so far away
Right.
that that's an issue. And I think we do have a county office here where they could staff somebody for that. And so I think that if we put a little bit of pressure on them, maybe we could try and work with them and the city itself. But, I'm just thinking if, the county may have people that do this, we can work with them on that.
Right. And the police department has had some mental health kind of clinicians that used to come out with them, and I think that's dropped from 4 to 1. So probably some help restoring that would be a great start. And it has always been my thing, like, if I can't get them to the service, I need to bring it here. And if I can't bring it here, I'm going to do it myself, which is where we came with the Tier 4 program. So we'd love it because there are more problems out there than we'd probably care to admit.
Does the school district utilize Turning Point that's here in town?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We do use Turning Point. We make referrals to that.
Okay, is it similar program, or you wanting to go more in depth?
I wouldn't mind if they were able to expand and have more spots open. So we really like what Turning Point does.
Yeah.
But the services they provide are not necessarily some of the deep therapeutic services that
Right.
some of our students need. So
I'm familiar with it because I had one of my children, I had actually two of my children that used their services.
Great.
And they are very thorough.
they are.
When there's a need for the psychologist to come in, they do actually bring a psychologist in so they can actually meet with them.
Right.
So I think it's a great program. It would be nice if we could expand it out so it works for all the children at any time.
It would be amazing. So there's only so many slots that we can get into at a time. And if we could double those, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions?
Anywhere
Okay, I
else?
think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, next up, we have proclamation for National Public Works Week 2023. I'm going to read it here on my computer because I can blow it up so I actually see it a little bit better. So it says, proclamation by the mayors of the city of Coalinga, National Public Works Week. Whereas the Public Works Department provides services for our community and are a vital and integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. And whereas the support of the community is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, fleet maintenance, building maintenance, wastewater management and treatment, solid waste collection, and airport operations. And whereas the health and safety and comfort of the community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities as well as their planning, design, and construction is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency and effectiveness of the qualified and skilled staff contribute to the quality of life that residents and visitors alike enjoy and rely upon from the city of Coalinga. Now, therefore, by the mayor and city of Coalinga, that we recognize and extend appreciation to our dedicated and skilled staff, and hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through the 27th, 2023, as National Public Works Week, connecting the world through public works. And be it further proclaimed that the City Council requests that all citizens and civic organizations acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing public works services to our community, and to recognize the contributions which our public works employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. And witness whereof I have set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Coalinga to be affixed this 4th day of May 2023. And I will be presenting this on behalf of Public Works to our Assistant City Manager, Sean. If you can. Here's the certificate for everybody. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and move on to citizens' comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address City Council on any item within the jurisdiction of the council, Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes in accordance with state open meeting laws. No action will be taken by the city council this evening, and all items will be referred to staff for a follow-up and a report. Citizens' comments submitted in writing to the city clerk by 5 p.m. on the day of the city council meeting shall be distributed to the city council and included in the record. However, they will not be read. Let's see. Would anybody like to come up and speak? Council? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to public hearings. We have one item, city council approval of a city-initiated zoning text amendment, number ZTA 23-03, and further introducing and waiving the first reading of the ordinance number 859, amending the planning and zoning code related to pet stores and veterinary services in the commercial retail center, CR zoning district. Sean.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. With ongoing interest in the redevelopment of the city's retail centers, there's been interest in pet-related services, either as a primary use or an ancillary use. Currently, pet stores and veterinary services are not a permitted use in the commercial retail center zoning districts, which are essentially the 3 main shopping centers we have in town. Those have separate zoning designations from other commercial zoning designations. And currently, pet stores and veterinary services are not permitted in those zones, which could restrict potential development that would be suitable in those locations in the city. So in order to facilitate that, staff prepared a draft ordinance for the City Council to consider and adopt. On April 25th, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing to consider Ordinance 859 and adopted Resolution 023P-003 recommending approval by the City Council. The City of Coalinga Planning and Zoning Code currently has an animal care sales and services classification with subclassifications related to kennels, pet stores, and vet services. Pet stores are defined as retail sales of animals or other services, including grooming for animals on a commercial basis. This classification excludes dog walking and similar pet care services not carried out at a fixed location, and excludes pet supply stores that do not sell animals or provide on-site animal services. And then sale of pet supplies would fall under just general retail sales. In terms of veterinary services, they're defined as medical care for small animals on a commercial basis. This classification allows for 24-hour accommodation of animals receiving medical or grooming services, but does not include kennels. So in order to accommodate a better variety of animal-related services, a zoning text amendment is necessary to permit these uses by right, with the requirement that these animals are to be on the premises and all activities shall occur inside. So staff has provided a copy of the ordinance in this report for the council's consideration. And so when looking at this, we look at the general plan and zoning consistencies, and then we find that the proposed zoning text amendment is consistent with the general plan policies and implementation measures, including zoning consistency for these types of uses. Public notification was issued in our standard procedures on April 13th as a joint public hearing for both the Planning Commission meetings and the City Council meetings were posted on April 13th. And in terms of environmental considerations for the text amendment, it's been reviewed in accordance with CEQA, and staff's determined that the ordinance will not have any detrimental effect to the health, safety, and welfare of the community and would fall under the general rule exemption for the California Environmental Quality Act. So with that, if the council has any questions, Mayor, this is a public hearing. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I got a question. Have we had any interest so far about possibly?
Yeah, so with the potential redevelopment of the Kmart building, I think Marissa had mentioned at the last meeting about the possibility of Tractor Supply. They do have pet services, pet-related services. They mentioned some type of veterinary service, but not like a full-time vet service, but it's certain types of activities they offer there. But they do offer pet grooming services in some of their facilities, as well as like dog washing stations. And so we wanted to make sure that when they're ready to move in, and we have received an application and currently processing that to amend the approved site plan that was priorly approved for the previous uses. So we are processing an application. We want to ensure that the uses they're looking to utilize and engage in at that site, we can accommodate that without any kind of roadblocks. So this is just kind of preempting that to ensure that we have those services available and that those uses are available in those areas.
Council have questions? No. Do we need to vote on this tonight, or?
Yes,
Okay.
so we need a vote from the council to basically introduce and waive the first reading of the ordinance. but
We
it is a-
actually have to open the public
Yes,
hearing.
but we do need to open the public hearing, yes.
Okay, would anybody like to speak on this? Any of the citizens? Council? Okay, seeing that, yes, we have one. Mary?
Mary Jones. It's just a question of specifically which area are we talking about, just that one particular area? Or is this in all commercial areas?
So the zoning text amendment is for the CR zones, which is commercial retail centers. The only zoning, the properties that are zoned for commercial retail centers is the Rite Aid Shopping Center, the old Kmart Shopping Center, and the current Save Mart Shopping Center.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, we need to close the public hearing.
Okay, we're now closing public hearing. Okay, now, council, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we pass item number 4.1.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Vosper,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock, Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Mayor Horn.
And I vote aye. Okay, next we're going to move on to item 5, the consent calendar. We have 11 items now. Is there anything that council would like to pull? Talk about? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I motion that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Vosper,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock,
Hear me?
Yes.
I was putting those under hold, right? At the beginning. 5, 8, and 6, 3.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So that is with 5, 8, and 6, 3 pulled, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was for the agenda. This is just to approve what's left on the consent calendar.
Right. Making sure those are going.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Aye.
Mayor Horn.
And I vote aye. Okay, next, we're going to move on to item 6, ordinance, presentation, discussion, potential action items. We have 2 items. First one is discussion, direction, and potential action regarding natural gas purchasing policy, and further adopt resolution number 4156, authorizing the city manager to execute gas purchase transactions up to 5 winters into the future. Dan Bergman.
Well, I'll go ahead and let Dan come up. This is basically from a discussion and that we had prior to the winter season in terms of discussion related to a long-term purchasing strategy for our natural gas. especially as we saw the whirlwind of natural gas prices fluctuate during this past winter. Dan Bergman's here to provide a presentation and allow the council to engage in discussion about moving forward with a long-term purchasing policy, and then hopefully further adopting said resolution for that policy moving forward. So Dan?
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. It's good to be back. Always good to be back in Coalinga. The city schools are a huge credit to this community. We heard about that earlier, but I wanted to share something about West Hills College. It's actually in my cover slide. It's my favorite place to have lunch in their cafeteria. I don't come here very often, but the lady remembers my name. And the students call me Coach, because why is this guy having lunch here? But today, I was looking out at the grounds. The grounds are immaculate. So I thought I'll take a walk, because they still let you do that there. And the gym door was open. So I walk into the gym, and they're having a career fair. And I thought, oh. So I took a walk around, and I talked to some of the friendliest people, and I think I could have got a job. But around the perimeter, they had potential employers, and in the center area, they had representatives from the college talking about their programs. And as you can see from the picture, it was so nicely done. So what a credit it is to the community. But I'm here to talk about natural gas. When we increased the gas rates back in the fall, it was a big increase. And one of the things I structured into that resolution is accountability to come back to you, City Council, with a long-term purchase policy. And that's what I'm bringing tonight. Now, tonight we're talking about purchase policy and not about rate setting. Rate setting will need to follow in a month or two. I'm going to show you where rates would be approximately as a result of buying some gas right now. Now is the time to buy gas. The market has crashed, which is just amazing after the high winter prices. So to get into it, this is what the gas purchase portfolio looked like going into winter. The blue section on the bottom in the winter is gas we purchased in August at $8.88, and the tan section above that is more gas that we purchased in September at $8.39, and that's when we increased the rates 50%. And you can see that the way we did that was such that almost all of the winter gas that we anticipated was going to be at fixed prices, paid for ahead of time. It was a very, very good decision, as I'll show you. Notice in the planning stages that the yellow on top, the gas that's left over, is relatively small. I'm going to show you another picture of the slide that shows you that the winter demand was actually quite a bit higher. Here's what the market did. So these are the monthly market prices going back to 2019. You can see how for such a long time prices were just low. We saw some volatility coming through 2022, and that's what was the prompt to buy winter gas ahead. The January posting was almost $40. It was astronomical. The December and February postings were also over $10. What I'm showing you in the dashed line is what the market looks like as of this week. And notice that for May, the monthly posting it's $3. And day gas today was $2.56. Prices have come down so very far. You can see, looking ahead over the next 3 winters, that winter prices are peaking around $6. Summer prices coming down in the $4 range. But the market has settled down. The market is at a place of calm, which is a good time to buy some gas. The storm is over. We wait for the lull, and it's a good time to buy. Whether we have a gas purchase strategy in place or not, so there's 2 things here. If you didn't have a gas purchase strategy, as we've done in the past, we would say, let's buy some gas. But I'm going a step further and presenting a formal gas purchase strategy to add formality to this and structure and accountability to the City Council as well. Here's what did happen this winter. You can see I'm just showing in this section the additional day gas that was purchased. Here's the prices that were paid for those gas in each of the months. In December, the average cost of the additional gas that was purchased, I manage it, so it was gas that I bought on behalf of the city, was $22. Day prices in December reached $50 a decatherm. So some parties were paying that. And this is where I compliment Shell Trading. They allow the city flexibility when it buys gas. So as we were moving through December, I was watching day prices, watching the city's demand, and looking for the dips in the day prices to buy. And so it helped. In January, $15. The monthly posting in January was $39. This is when the market started to come back down. But these are the prices that we paid for the gas in the yellow zone, which was represented gas that was above the typical winter average because it was cold this winter, and it's still cold, even after last week. This is an important visual. If we hadn't bought that gas, the city would have spent an additional $1.6 million for gas. $1.6 million. I'm showing the fiscal 23 costs there, a little over $2 million. And I'm also showing for the next 2 years, fiscal 23, 24, 24, 25, where the market is now. So if we bought all the gas tomorrow, that's how much it would cost, a little over $1 million. When you look back in time, you can see when gas prices were so low, down to almost $500,000 a year. So prices have come back down. They're not down to where they were in past years, but they are looking very attractive compared to the past 2 years. What does that $1.6 million represent? If we hadn't bought the gas, it would have cost every single-family customer in town $228. It's that much money. It would have cost everybody, every household, an additional $228. This is why having a formalized gas purchase strategy is important now, because of this new level of volatility that we have in the gas industry. So the way the purchase policy is currently written is in resolution form. My intent, as I have envisioned this for the city, is for it to be a living document. It'll probably move from resolution form to an attachment to a resolution, but this is the starting point. And the strategy is to be able to layer in gas, 1/3 of the winter supply for 3 years out, 2/3 for 2 years out, and by November 1st of each year to have 100% of the 3-year average purchased. So you're essentially purchasing all of your winter gas ahead of the winter, but layering it in as we approach. It gives the flexibility to watch the market and look for the dips, but it creates the discipline to make sure the gas gets purchased ahead of time. What's also written into the policy and the resolution, could purchase more gas sooner if prices are attractive, could purchase summer gas, and purchase out to 5 years. And I'll tell you, in my conversations with Shell Trading the last couple of days, they're a little leery about going beyond 3 years. That's quite a ways out. We can accomplish what we need to layering in gas over 3 years. So as I already mentioned, the monthly volumes that are the purchase targets are based on the 3-year average. It's a good statistical number. It gives the city manager authority to make the purchases. It's not as though in the past the city manager didn't already have that, but we're formalizing that. Annual reporting to City Council by the end of each August, and that's timely for the purpose of setting winter rates. And as I already mentioned, the intent's for this to be adjusted as it needs to going forward in time. This is a table that actually shows the volumes. So what it's saying is that by the end of June, we would purchase 250 decatherms a day at Malin. By the end of October, another 302 for this coming winter. And by November, the Citygate volumes that make up the total winter requirement. So what I'm showing in the upper left hand there is buying all of this winter's gas by November 1st. As we move to the right, it's showing the purchases get stretched out over the 3 years. So now to talk about gas rates. Gas rates had been held constant for 10 years. As gas costs dropped and dropped and dropped, we were trying to actually to lower the fund balance. Some of you will remember that. When gas rates were increased 45% back in November 2021, that was just to stop the negative flow, because we had got the fund balance down to where it needed to be. And then, of course, when we got to last September, it was a 50% increase, and structured into that in the resolution was that those rates end September 2023. So if nothing happens, those rates end after 12 months in September of 2023. And then I already mentioned writing into that resolution, long-term strategy. So here's what happens with different rate scenarios. The revenue requirement that I'm seeing right now is $3.2 million. And this goes to the next presentation that will be in probably 6 weeks. Support for why we need $3.2 million. But if you accept $3.2 million, if the rates went back to where they were, you would collect $2.5 million. With the 50% increase ending on September 1st, we'll be at 2.8. So if nothing happens, you're going to be at 2.8 for the next fiscal year, right? So what you then see is that if we reduce the current rates, the current increased rates by 12%, we make the $3.3 million we need going forward. So we can't give up all 50%, but we can give up 12%, which is really not what you want to hear, but it's the reality of the situation. And then finally, if you left the 50% increase in place, which you're not going to do, you'd end up with a little over $3.7 million. Again, the purpose of this presentation is not about rate setting, but about the long-term strategy. But I wanted to show you, and I know you wanted to see, where this is going. This is just showing what the rate table could look like. So the under 9122, those are the rates that are in place. If I can point. These are the rates that are in place. This is the rates going back to where they were, and this is minus 12% from where they are now. Still higher. Just like Coalinga Schools, the gas system is a credit, huge credit to the city. I showed you one comparison to my PG&E bill. I showed you this one before. So for December, Coalinga was less by 42%. For January, less by 48% than what I pay at my home in Walnut Creek. And then finally for February, 50% less. So this is exactly what I paid. You're looking at my bill compared to what I would have paid at the current rates here in Coalinga. So it is a huge benefit to the city. So again, the focus right now is on establishing a long-term gas purchase policy. With your support in this policy, we could start to buy gas. I mean, I guess we could buy gas anyway because we need to, whether we have a long-term policy or not. So I'm sensitive to that because if you have questions or for some reason want to delay the long-term purchase policy, we need to buy some gas. And interested in what you would have to say about that. And that is beautiful rose bush at West Hills College, and that's the end of my presentation.
Council have any questions?
Yeah. Can we go back to the slide where you showed all of the different levels? I think it was, keep going, all the different purchase levels of prices. There you go.
That.
So basically what we're talking about is that we'll still be purchasing it almost, well, let's see, not quite double the percentage that we purchased in 2021, but almost double the amount that we purchased in 2020.
The cost of gas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Based on speculation.
Speculation meaning?
The market, because that's how it always is when you purchase in long term.
Yeah, which brings up a good question, and that is, why are we doing this? It's not about beating the market. It's about avoiding the risk of that extreme volatility.
But you're guessing there's going to be a risk. You don't know for a fact. Because as you stated, long time back, we had a 45% increase that you said that we just put in just to get back to normal. That's a huge increase. That's not like, hey, we did studies, we found out what should have been, and then we increased it just a little bit to match. That's like a huge increase. That's the opposite of what we're talking about right now. It's hard for me to say, hey, like, let's go out and purchase a bunch of gas at this price when the governor and the government is trying to get rid of natural gas options, which if not as many people are using that kind of option, then maybe the price would go down on some of those items. I don't know. I'm not a specialist. You are. Just kind of posing these questions. But I know that listening to people specifically in my district, specifically people that live on East Pleasant and in Houston, and people that are on assistance and people that are low income, they can't afford these rates again. A lot of these people went into near like horrible debt to trying to afford these, and just to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and purchase gas in advance for this, not knowing where that market sits. To me, that's just, I understand your point. I get it. Like, hey, if we don't do that, where could we be? But where would we be if the market dips? And this actually really is about rate setting. Let's not get away from that. This is about rate setting. What we decide tonight will set the tone for where those rates are going to be. Because if we turn around and buy gas at this price, I mean, you've already got it figured out. You already have it on the slides. Then we're going to be making tough decisions moving forward. And none of those decisions looked good to me because, of course, I'd like to get them as cheap as possible. Yeah. But I appreciate everything you do, and I respect everything, all your opinions, because I believe that you are the best person to give us this information. And I really do appreciate your info. And I guess I'm just listening to what does the rest of the council think? What do other people think?
Well, may I respond first?
Absolutely.
What I'm showing you is if we bought all of the gas now, but the strategy is to layer it in. And so in waiting in those different windows, we're looking for dips in the market. So it's not taking just the price that's offered. There is opportunity there. And the second thing, if I was the reason the city bought that gas because of my expertise in the gas industry, if I hadn't done that, you would fire me and I would probably retire because I would be devastated. And there is so much upward risk now, so much upward risk. What's the downside? Winter gas at $6, perhaps, compared to winter gas at maybe $4. So when you consider a couple dollars of downside versus $20 of upside, it makes it very, very attractive. With regard to the layering I'm talking about, we would hope for some $4 winter buying opportunities. I cannot tell you how strongly I feel about putting this in place and buying gas ahead of time, especially after what happened last winter.
So I guess I'm looking at two separate things at the same time too, because I'm also looking at the last slide that you had put that said we have a revenue requirement. Like, what can we do to hit that, right? Yeah. So that's a whole nother ball of wax that is kind of like embedded into this. And I'd like to get that information out about why that's the case, that we need to hit that 3.24 number.
Yeah, and I'm not showing you the revenue and expenses tonight. 3.2 probably isn't too far off. It's gas purchasing plus PG&E plus personnel. It's the things we've looked at before, but that needs to be refined. And a main consideration there is what are going to be the capital improvement requirements of the gas system. The city has not spent or invested significantly in the gas system for a very long time. And the gas system has no debt, which is great. I mean, water and sewer do. Again, it's a huge asset to the city. But
so that actually is another question of mine. since we did have those artificial rates for so long, why did we not do that maintenance at that time? Because now we have these giant increases when we could have done little increases, and when we had a fund that was more than flush that you yourself said that we were spending down. Why weren't we spending that on maintenance?
Well, the intent was to get the fund balance down to about $1 million, which is where it is now. And again, the determination had been made, and I agreed with it, there was too much cash in the gas fund. So we reset rates to drain that down a little bit, to everyone's benefit.
But why didn't we keep the rates where they were and spend money on, instead of draining that fund down, why didn't we spend it on maintenance?
Well, it's not maintenance. The main cost that's coming up with the gas system is replacement of anode beds. The anode beds have never been replaced. They don't need to be replaced tomorrow or next year, but it's coming, and it's not tens of thousands, it's hundreds of thousands. So it's not that big of a hurdle to get over.
I guess I'm just trying to point out that we need to be smarter in the future and look at this and say, you know what, and maybe that's what you're trying to do with the things, but it's very disconcerting to watch the giant spike of 50% increase, then let's see, what was it? The total increase was 95%. And we're talking about taking away 12% of that. And people are not going to be happy with that. That is not a happy solution. Going into wintertime, if that's what we're looking at, you're still looking at these bills where people are going to be calling and yelling at the city saying, what's going on? And I'm not saying that there's a way around this. I'm just pointing it out so the public that's listening can understand that this may be the scenario. And I would like to find a different way, if possible, to not have that be the scenario. But you are the expert on this.
I am. And Councilman, from your perspective, you're looking at where you were to where you are now. From my perspective, I look at the value of this gas system to the community in the context of the larger state. And what if people's rates were twice what they were this winter, which is what I pay? But I suppose that's not relevant because this is Coalinga and it's what Coalinga's people are used to. I'm glad it's not the other way around, you know, for the benefit of folks here.
I got a quick question. So if the price dips way below what we actually purchased at, then what?
We pay the price that we committed to.
Okay. It won't change at all? Have no
Nope.
way to resell, nothing, huh?
Nope.
Lock it in.
Do you project that the prices are gonna drop even more?
It's such a crazy market. I'm surprised that they've dropped as much as they have, as quickly as they have. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal about it in the last week, how prices have dropped. California is unique because it was cold in the west, so California's prices were higher through the winter than the rest of the country, mainly because storage reserves were severely strained. I took those slides out because we have enough slides anyway.
Now, some of this, it looks like roughly it's changed or requested change is just under 700,000. Is that because of the new facilities that are being built, like the apartment complexes and new homes, to be able to have enough to provide for them as well? Is that what the cost difference is? A little bit?
No, I think I missed what you're asking.
So you're saying the natural gas sales right here, it's showing here it's close to $700,000 difference.
Oh, on the bar chart.
Yes. Is that taken into consideration because we were originally told, I believe, the 50% increase for 1 year, and after that it would drop back down. But you're saying right now it's going to be 50%. Once it drops off, it goes back up 38%.
Well, what I'm showing on the far side there is if the 50% didn't drop off, over the fiscal year 23-24, you'd collect $3.7 million. That's what that represents. So you don't need that much money, but what I'm representing at this point is the number is somewhere around 3.3.
And the 38% would keep us it would keep us in the black, not the red.
Preliminarily, yes.
Now, if we were to purchase and the price drops even more, then what would that percentage rate change? Would it still be the 38% to be able to get that number, or would it be more or less?
Well, it's not a one-to-one ratio because the gas procurement costs are about a third of all the cost to operate the utility. It helps.
Yeah. Any more questions, council?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
The gas prices are super volatile. I used to take care of a facility, and I've seen usage at that facility go from $30,000 a month to $300,000 a month with the gas prices going up and down. That's just one facility using a lot of natural gas, of course, but that's a huge increase over a short period of time when you're buying it on the market monthly. So having Dan look into this and using his expertise is a really good thing for the city.
Sounds like that was it.
Yeah, thank you.
So I remember Delta Airlines did this thing, fuel hedging, I think is what it's called, right? And they were buying fuel at like $51 a barrel back in 2007. That was their contracted price. Fuel ended up going down to the 30s or something like that, but they still had to pay that $51 a barrel. That's basically like you're saying what would happen here. If we were paying X amount, we'll just say that it was $51 a barrel, we'll use the same thing. And the gas went down to 30-something a barrel, we'd still pay that 51, right?
Yes.
But even, let's say that happens 1 year, but then the next 2 years, the fuel or the cost could be higher than that, and we'd still pay the $51 a barrel. I remember it hurt Delta Airlines in that 1 year, but the years that came after that, it actually helped them.
Yeah,
So-
if you look at last winter, we bought gas at $8.88 and then $8.39 coming out of winters where gas was $4 and $5. And, you know, as I talked to Sean about that and staff, we were thinking, you know, this is expensive. But I was looking at what had happened in Texas. And to your point, Councilman, if prices had come down to $4 and $5 this past winter, you would have been paying $8.88 and $8.39. The reason I feel so confident about what I'm proposing now is we're looking at winter gas prices in the $5 to $6 range. The downward risk is small. The downward opportunity, I should say, and the upward risk is huge. And I'm not suggesting, if you approve this, which I hope you do, I would recommend to the city to go out in the next week and buy the first third, wait a month or two to buy the second third, and then buy the PG&E Citygate portion probably in October. So I wouldn't buy it all at once. I wouldn't recommend to the city to buy it all at once. So looking for those dips.
You have your almanac out, Manny? That we can predict what next winter's gonna be.
Yeah.
I got a really stupid question for you. It might be, it might not be. Have you seen a difference in prices during election years? Either a huge rise or a huge drop?
No,
It's pretty much
no, this is not
the
political.
same across the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you, one thing I have observed over many years, early on, there was seasonality in gas prices. There was a time to buy like summer, spring, or fall. And that is totally different nowadays. The market can dip at the strangest times. And the one thing that I have seen without exception is not to do long-term purchasing in times of volatility. But then when the market settles, that's a time to go into the market. And again, that's where we are right now. We weren't there a month ago, but we are there now. With day prices today at $2.56, that's so low. And the monthly posting that Coalinga's paying is under $3. And you saw it on that chart. It's dipped down to a low place where it hasn't been. Right there.
You ready? I'll make a motion that we approve. I agree with Councilman Hedgecock's information, as he knows more about natural gas than I do. This isn't my specialty. And more than that, Mr. Bergman, you're the person to watch this, and you're the person that we pay to do this, and so I respect your opinion. So I'll make that motion.
Better ask him to get that in writing that he respects your opinion, because I'll second that.
We have a roll call, please.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Aye.
Mayor Horn.
And I vote aye.
Thank you, City Council. You know, as I'm just reflecting here for a minute, I have never petitioned a City Council to do anything like I just did with water rates or sewer rates. So thank you for your support, and I'm so confident it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to item 2, fiscal year 2023, 2024 proposed budget discussion and direction. Marissa?
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this draft of the budget is the true first look at the budget as a whole. So previously, we had brought you proposed operational expenses and proposed personnel costs. There have been some changes since you've seen those items, because there were some wants that we had that we wouldn't be able to afford next year, so those have been removed. And so we are excited to show you this first draft of the budget. It ends the general fund balance with about $51,000 in the positive. That was from removing the 4 full-time police officer positions that were requested for next fiscal year, as well as removing the full-time animal control officer, and making some other changes within the general fund budget. And so there's a summary within the staff report that sort of outlines some changes. The entire budget picture is there, including the enterprise funds. And I know that it's boring for a lot of people to go step by step in detail. So I know that council has had a chance to review the budget document and read the summary on the staff report. And so before I ask if you guys have any questions, I just want to thank our finance director. She sort of came to the city at a time where we had a lot going on, and she hit the ground running. Staff has done a wonderful job in preparing their operational portion of the budget, and Mai has done an excellent job putting this together so it's easy to understand. And so if you have any questions, I can take those, and then at the end of that, I'd like to tell you some proposed changes that I have in the draft that we would like to bring back to you for the May 18th meeting.
Council?
So I normally have a lot to say, but I've spent a lot of time with the city manager on this, and so I have nothing.
Do we need to vote on this
we
tonight?
didn't-
Or, go ahead, Councilman.
We didn't cut 4 officers out. They were just the proposed extra ones.
Correct. So right now, the police department has 21 full-time police officer positions authorized. The initial draft of the personnel budget for next fiscal year was taking them to 25. This version that you're seeing is keeping them at 21. So they're not losing anybody. They just are not getting the additional 4 bodies that were requested.
Does that answer your question, Councilman?
Yes, sir.
And for the public's understanding, I just want to point out, a lot of times I say we have 21 officers. We don't have 21 police officer rank positions. And so a lot of times people think that we have 21 officers, and then on top of that, we have corporals and we have sergeants and we have a commander and we have the chief. That's not what I mean when I say 21. We have a total of 21 sworn from the rank of officer through the chief.
Okay, this is for Marissa, do we need to vote on this tonight, or do we need to hear what your proposed changes are?
So you won't be voting on approving the agenda tonight, or I'm sorry, approving the budget tonight. It's not ready for you to approve. This opportunity is just for council to provide any direction. If you're not happy with the way the budget's presented and you want to make some changes, now would be the appropriate time to direct staff to do that, so that when we bring it back to you at a future council meeting date, you'd be ready to adopt it. But before I bring it back to you for adoption, there are some changes I just wanted to point out that I plan to make for the next draft. So one of those is, for whatever reason, account 101-413-92085, which was a newly created account, didn't populate in the budget document. It doesn't have a large budgeted amount. It's only $5,600 for the year. And so that's missing from this version. So it needs to be added for the next version of the budget. And that is the stipend that the Police Officers Association gets for their gym. And that includes the $2,000 stipend that they get annually from the city, and then the contribution of the council stipends from Mayor Horn and Councilman Hedgecock that they've allocated there. And then for 101-416-92084, which is the fire department's gym stipend, it still reflects $2,000, and it needs to be $5,600 because of the council stipends that are being allocated there. So those are just housekeeping items that you'll see changed in the next version of the budget. And then the police chief had a request that could be very beneficial, and I agree with his request. So right now he has 4 authorized reserve positions for police officers. He wants to take those 4 reserve positions that are currently vacant and eliminate them and use the funds from the savings of those positions to create 1 full-time police officer position. And then he wants to combine 2 part-time police technician positions into 1 full-time. So in the next version of the budget I would bring you, that general fund positive balance of $51,000 is going to be more around $48,000. And I would recommend that you move forward with adopting the budget with that balance. I know a lot of times we try to net zero. And so if there's projects that, would cost around $48,000, we'll find ways to use that money. I don't recommend doing that this year because we are in negotiations with the Firefighters Association and with the newly formed association that's representing the non-sworn employees of the police and fire departments. And so if we got a budget that was net zero, then essentially anything that you agreed to in terms of collective bargaining would be deficit spending. So my recommendation would be that if you have any direction to provide, do so. By all means, that's your role as a council, but I do feel that we've presented you with a really quality budget. And so if you don't have recommended changes, that would be great too. And then I would just make those changes that I stated and bring it back for consideration at a future meeting date.
Yeah. Looking at the council, I think we all agree with that. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next item, announcements. City managers, announcements. Marissa, do you have any?
I have none, thank you.
Council members, announcements or reports?
I just want to thank Ms. Villanueva, and again, Troy, for coming in and giving us his thoughts and his projections. And that's it, and great work for all the staff all the time. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just like to recognize that the mayor of Lemoore is actually in our council chambers. Yeah, she's looking at me like, and I would just like to say that I appreciate your presence. Thank you. And then also we have Mr. Strawn. I think he's on the Amtrak board coming to visit as well. So I just want to say that anytime we have visitors, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I got a couple announcements. For the, I had a citizen reach out to me and gave me some information about veterans that are having a hard time, people that are on Social Security or trying to get Social Security, that are having a hard time. Our congressman has said if you write him a letter, reach out to him, that's one of the things that he's pushed to be able to help you get through that part of the process. So if you have a need for a veteran or somebody that's disabled or getting ready to go on Social Security and you're having trouble, please reach out to him. The next one, this Saturday, is Mid-Valley is doing their free dump day. So I believe you have to have an ID or your utility bill to prove your residency where you live, so that way you can dump. And I believe there's a limit on, I don't think they allow big trailers. Other than that, I think that's just about it. Do we have any future agenda items?
I do. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, on a future agenda item, I want to appoint Roger Schindler to the vacancy in District 1 council seat. And if he declines, I want to appoint Dawn Kaikina to the vacancy in District 1 due to that they ran for that seat, got votes. They had a combined total of 370 votes in that district. So there was a lot of people that voted for them. And the second agenda item I have is when the new person is appointed, they need to be invited to the team building on May 25th.
Just the two items?
Yes.
Council? Any more future agenda items?
Yeah. So I'd like a future agenda item for city staff to create a poll that can be accessible via Facebook and in person in regards to the road diet on Elm, to find out if people are in favor of this or if people are against it. All I've heard is negative. I still want to find out the opinion of the people to see. Caltrans, this is a Caltrans project. It started as a Kalinga project getting funding, I remember, and then Caltrans kind of took over this with funding, and so I never say anything's too late. I know a lot of people have given up hope and a lot of people are angry. I personally have seen what that light on Cambridge has done. It's doubled or tripled the amount of time it takes to get your kids to school. It's the worst thing ever. We could pull out almost all of these stoplights and we'd be a better community for it. That's my personal opinion. And I think if we polled the residents, some of them might be in favor of the same type of idea. And so this poll would really just serve as something we can send, to Caltrans and just say, hey, look, you're going to move forward with something that our residents aren't happy with, or they are happy with, and then they'll know, But having these meetings where they say, hey, everyone show up, and then 8 people show up. Look at how many people we have in the city council tonight. We don't have hardly any people here. So that's not the way you reach people. And that's a very draconian way of reaching people, and I just think that they haven't done their due diligence. I think this is the way that it's set to do. I just don't think you get everyone's opinion when you do that, and so I'd like to see that. And then also, I would like a future agenda item that unfortunately would diametrically oppose Mr. Hedgecock's agenda item, because I think we already voted to move forward with the selection process and that people have already put in time and effort to come down here and sign up for those positions in District 1. And even though I do respect the fact that people did run, I've never in history seen that be the way that you give just those two people the opportunity. I've watched the school district, I've watched the city, I've watched Lemoore, I've watched Fresno, and it always goes out to the public. I don't see that it's ever been what I would call pigeonholed into this scenario where the two people that ran last time get the it would sound like it's fair, but the thing is, there were people that purposely didn't run because Adam was running. So they didn't want to run against him. And so, even though I do respect Councilman Hedgecock's opinion, I think we already decided this. So if we're going to have an agenda item, then I would also like to have an agenda item to keep it the way it is. And then I'd like to ask also the city attorney if that's something that we even can backtrack on, because we already set it forward and we already set a date towards this and we already have people that have applied. What would the ramifications of that be?
I don't think there would be any ramifications. I think you guys can dictate how you want to control the process based on a majority and how a majority wants to proceed with the process.
Okay, so then I would just like to put my agenda side by side with his.
Yes.
Did Mr. Schindler or Ms. Katikina apply, turn in papers to go through the process?
I believe Mr. Schindler did. I'm not sure on Ms. Kahakina.
Okay, so they would still be involved in the same process if you kept it the way you already voted to do it, right?
What
They would
about
have the same opportunity.
I believe there was another person who put in an application as well. What about that person?
I'm just saying that that they're already in the pool.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So, Marissa, can you tell us how many people have applied and put in paperwork?
Sort of. So I've been out this week, and so I can tell you that the last time when I was there were 2 applicants. I don't know if any more have come in since I've been gone.
It's only the 2 applicants, and both have completed all of the required documentation.
And so no matter what would happen if we couldn't agree, so basically it would just, if we went with one person's agenda item, then those people would get ahead before others to get voted up or down, then the other people, the one person basically that's left. But we don't know, because people sometimes apply at the last second. So we don't know if people are just holding, themselves out to apply until it comes. And let me say, I'm actually looking at all the applicants trying to look in an unbiased fashion, so I have nothing against any of these folks. And I am convinced we'll come to an agreement. I'd just like each person to be able to come forward. That way that they can give their piece, we can ask them the questions. And now it kind of makes sense why the agenda item 5.8 was removed from the consent calendar. So 5.8, if I could read it, was to establish a process for city council meeting workshop, which means that this item probably was removed because there was going to be a future agenda item put ahead. And to me, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of goes against what we already agreed we were going to do. So if we agreed that we're going to do something, now we're saying we're not going to do that. And now we're going to go in a totally different direction without council giving their opinion. So if Councilman Hedgecock is going to give an agenda item
when
to
you guys
appoint
when you
somebody,
guys got
I guess
into
I'm not
making that
talking about it.
motion with semantics, the first thing that was said was that we needed to consider Roger and Don first because they ran for office, and Nathan came back and motioned the same thing but a little bit differently. So,
If I could finish, that would be great. So if he's going to make a future agenda item for Roger and Don, I'll make a future agenda item for the appointment of the other person who has put in an application.
Any more? Yeah, go ahead, Scott. Just briefly, please.
I got an email today from the Caltrans. They actually want to have a booth at Horntoad Derby to take questions about that improvement on Elm Street. Just so you guys know, so it must not be finalized if they're still wanting input. I don't know. But I just got an email from them today seeing if they could set up a booth down there to get public opinion. So.
Hilda Crawford, I just have a question. When was, I mean, I have my notes at the library, but when was the deadline for submitting your application and when everything was going to be decided as to who wanted to apply to Phil Adams, Councilwoman Atkinson's
Adam is just fine.
position?
Marissa?
I believe it was the 15th.
Shannon may be able to clarify. I think it's May 10th because it was before the agenda has to be published. And so I believe the deadline's May 10th. And then they would be invited to the May 18th special city council meeting at 5 p.m. And they would be prepared to make like an opening statement and council would be permitted to ask questions at that time.
Okay, that was May 18th?
May 10th.
May 8th at 5 p.m. is the special meeting, but I believe the application deadline is May 10th. Shannon, do you know if that's correct?
That's correct.
Oh, so I still have time. I'm just joking.
And I have one more question.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Based on the code of conduct that we just passed, it includes a section on reconsidering an item. I'd like to reconsider item 5.8. You gonna second it?
I'll second that.
Make sure.
I see some staring faces. 5.8 is establish a process for special city council meeting workshop on May 18th at 5 o'clock regarding an anticipated city council district vacancy for District 1. I'm asking we reconsider that item per the code of conduct that was just passed.
Can you point me to the page, Ethan?
In the code of conduct?
Correct.
Oh, it's buried in there, but I know it is in there because I put it in there.
The reason why I'm asking is typically it's to be considered at the next meeting, at a later
So
meeting.
I put it to be considered specifically at the current meeting.
Okay, let me see, hold on. Yeah, immediately during the same session, yeah.
So we need to vote on this right now?
Correct.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Can we get roll call?
That's only to to reconsider, correct.
Councilman Vosberg?
Do we get discussion on this item again, or is this just a vote?
This is just to reconsider it.
It's just a vote to reconsider, and then we get it,
the
then
item will come back.
it would come back.
Come back at our next meeting.
No, it would come back today.
No, today, yes, correct.
All right, my vote's yes, aye.
Councilman Atkinson?
We've already put this out to the public, and the public has already started turning in their paperwork. I think it's completely unfair for those who have turned in their paperwork to say, all of a sudden, we say, oh, you know what? We're just kidding. We're gonna go in this direction now. When we told them we were gonna go in this direction. Now, Mr. Schindler has turned in his paperwork, so he will be there at the May 18th workshop, and whoever else turns in their paperwork will be there as well. And if that's the way we told the public we were gonna do it, then that's the way we need to do it. Why change it in the middle of the selection process? It's ridiculous. So my vote is yes, let's continue with the May 18th workshop.
Councilman Hedgecock?
No, because of the verbiage that was changed when we passed that the first time.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez?
I think when we voted, I think a lot of us didn't understand the way it was. I just think, in fairness, these two individuals went in the heat to go door to door, and to me, that's the first interview. And I understand with the other individuals that are putting in paperwork or anything, and I understand that they're here to fill in a seat and be here for their community. But in fairness, yes, these individuals put in the work, and it's not work in the winter, in April. It's in the summer. It's in the summer. And in fairness, they did all the paperwork they had to do. They did the work. They did the work, and I think that's in fairness. So, nay.
Mayor Horn?
Then I vote no. I vote no.
May I speak, please?
Yes.
I realize I'm speaking just for myself at the moment, but I am deeply disturbed by the fact that you had the discussion. You already discussed all of that. You told the public, this is open for your application. The people who ran before had the opportunity, and one of them did file for this place. And now to say, oh wait, hey, they knocked on doors. You went back on what you committed to, and I'm just deeply disappointed. I mean, like, what are you gonna go back on next? Because it's not fair. I'm disappointed, very, very disappointed.
We understand that.
No, I don't think you do.
Yeah, we do. In reality, these people had the chance to run when the election was out. If they don't choose to run when there's an election, I'm just.
Okay, so you want to get into statistics? We could get into the analysis of the votes and who got how many votes and who ran and who specifically said they didn't want to run against Adam.
Mm-hmm.
So you open the playing field again and you say, we're going to choose the best candidate. And those same two people have the same opportunity to come up and say, here I am. I ran before. I did the debates. I understand the topics and put in their word and show who they are. But you're not giving them that opportunity after you already said you would. You said you would do it.
Yes, we
I
understand.
applied for an art job back in 1982. I could go back now and say, oh, I applied for it before. I can do it now. I'm not the same person. So it's not what you said. It's not what you committed to. There is no excuse, none, because it wasn't unfair the way you had it. The way you had it said they had every right to apply again. And you, on purpose, intentionally wiped out what you committed as a team to do, period.
Hilda Crawford. What I don't agree with is the fact that it was already posted, it was put out there. Everybody's had a chance to come in. Everybody has a chance to put in their paperwork. We still have it till the 10th. And I know that I've always been told that the library is not like the school district. Well, in this case, that happened at the school district. And the reason behind my husband being re-elected for the school board was the same situation. They had 5 people, or 6, may be wrong on maybe 5, that chose to come back and try to get the seat that was vacated by board member Raymond Zubiri. They all had their chance to speak. And one council member said that they felt that it should have been given to one of the previous board members that also ran for that office. And he, since then, had never been to any of the city council meetings, had never bothered to go to any of our library board meetings, because yes, we are part of the school district, and we count just as much as the city, as the school district does. So you're backtracking, you're not fully being you're not fully being honest to the community. Just like Schindler, Mr. Schindler, and whoever else put their paperwork in, then you have those two that ran come back and put in their paperwork. Just because they ran doesn't mean, oh, that they should put someone in their place, or that they should take in and come before, that they should be considered first before those people that went in and did their paperwork, those people that put in and came and are wanting to be involved in the city council. I mean, I know I don't know if it was a joke or not, but asked to run for city council. Truthfully, at this point, maybe I should put in my paperwork. We need a woman that needs to be on this board. We need somebody that's not going to backtrack and play favorites. We need somebody that's going to agree and say, okay, we've done it. Let's go forward. The paper has been set. The vote was set. The motion was set, because I take minutes when I'm sitting here at this meetings. And that's just somewhat of a disappointment. And you're going back on your word. If you tell your child, okay, yes, we can go to Disneyland, and then you come back around and say, oh no, you can't go to Disneyland, we decided not to because we can't take your brother, or we can't take somebody that you want to go with you to the city, to the Disneyland. Right now, I'm just probably mumbling because I'm upset at thinking that you've backtracked and you're not honoring your word, basically, is what you're doing. You're not honoring what you committed yourself to at the very beginning. At the last meeting, when you voted to put it in, set a date where the deadline was, had the people come in if they were so interested to run for city council and fill that Adams seat, to come in the paperwork. And now you're saying, well, screw the paperwork, who cares? It doesn't matter anymore. So what you're doing is kind of dishonoring what you committed yourself for, and now people aren't going to they're going to not want to come and speak or do something, because you're going to say, oh, well, forget it. They're just going to turn it back around. Just like when we vote for certain laws, and then whoever wants to change them, changes them. So maybe I'm not making sense, but right now I'm just not happy. I mean, it's just crazy. You already went through it once, and backtracking and redoing it because, oh, now you want to give somebody else a chance. Well, if that person really wanted to, then they would have got their body down over to the city. They would have filled in the paperwork just like everybody else on the time that the deadline they were committed to. So, sorry, but I'm not, just God, it's like sticking the knife behind your back. Sorry.
Mayor, can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to cut anybody off. Technically, the public should not be getting up speaking right now based on the code of conduct that was adopted. But I want to point out that I think people are getting upset because there's a misunderstanding of what happened. And so there is a special city council meeting on May 18th at 5 p.m., just as I explained before. So anyone who turns in an application by May 10th for that city council seat will attend the May 18th meeting at 5 p.m. and speak. That meeting happens before the May 18th 6 p.m. item when Councilman Hedgecock requested to appoint someone to the council and Councilman Atkinson requested to appoint someone to the council. And so that May 18th meeting at 5 p.m. will still happen. There's still an agenda item that will be a discussion item where council may choose to appoint someone from that May 18th 5 p.m. meeting. There will also be a discussion item after that to consider appointing Roger Schindler And if he does not accept, then Don Kaikina, and there will be a discussion item to consider appointing the other applicant who has applied. So I think that there's some confusion about what happened. And so people have the right to be upset, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page and knew what was happening.
Then what exactly is the point of the future agenda item then?
To specifically appoint that candidate.
That's what we'd be doing on that day anyway. I mean, I don't believe that was the intent of the agenda item. I mean, if you want to see why people hate government, we just gave them the perfect example of why they hate government. We just saw it put on full display in front of the people right now.
I just want to say that I'm very disappointed in this council. I'm very disappointed. The people had expectations of moving forward. As it's being told, once again, someone didn't understand what was going on. That's not my fault, nor do I believe that to be the truth. I believe that's being used as an anchor to change their opinions. And this reeks of the Good Old Boy Network. And I think that everyone watching, because this will be played back, it will. And I hope people are content in what they've done. I'm really unhappy with this council.
So I just want to clarify, when I said there's a misunderstanding, I think there's a misunderstanding by the public of what just transpired, not necessarily a misunderstanding of the council. And so with that agenda item that was 5.8 that failed as a reconsideration, that was to have a structure for that May 18th, 5 p.m. meeting. So initially, Mayor Horn had asked that to keep that sort of like a formal process, that council members would submit written questions to me by a certain date. Each council person could submit 5 written questions, and then from there, I would form a list of questions so that every council applicant would be asked the same set of questions. That's the only thing that didn't pass for the reconsideration. It wasn't canceling the meeting or changing anything. It was just that there's not going to be that formal process of council having to submit their written questions to me in advance in order for me to prepare a formal written question page for every candidate.
And you're still accepting questions from the public, correct?
That would be up to you guys at that meeting.
Okay.
Now, I'm just appalled at people that would say that they didn't understand that was going on and then try and backtrack later. That's ridiculous. Everybody knew what was going on. Everybody knew. We all voted in favor.
This is what makes everybody say city council is doing backdoor deals. This is why everybody says city council is corrupt. This kind of stuff right here.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and just move on to closed session. We have none. With that being said, we are going to adjourn the meeting tonight until May 18th. Special meeting at 5 o'clock and then actual meeting at 6 o'clock. Thank you.